It's 2024, it's a new year, and we got a lot to talk about on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 207 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So, we have a lot to talk about because a lot's happened between our last podcast, and we've seen a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, we got a lot of catching up to do, just the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's like, let's get the ugly out of the way right off the bat. Jonathan Majors, his court case is over, and he was found guilty, and so it looks like he's going to be spending at least a year in jail, is what I hear. Okay. This past Monday, he did an interview with Good Morning America.
Really?
And he continued to insist on his innocence.
Wow.
And I'm not going to weigh in on all of that. But when I heard that he was doing the Good Morning America interview, of course, I thought about the R. Kelly one, and that didn't help him at all. So I was a little bit worried.
Yeah. Was that a good idea?
Yeah. And also, if you're trying to build back trust with an audience or build your reputation back, usually the move to make, if you're caught dead to rights, has been trying to show remorse and the idea that you want to work on yourself. But if you don't think that you're guilty,
right, then
obviously you're not going to admit to something you don't believe you did.
You have to acknowledge it. You can't.
Yeah. So
can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's if he is guilty, then yeah, maybe that would have been the time to do that.
Go to some anger management classes. Go to some batterers intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even in a situation where, and again, not weighing on innocence and guilt, I don't need to. A court has already done that. Mm-hmm. But even in a situation where you may feel innocent, and maybe in a case where somebody was innocent, obviously it's hard to apologize for something you don't feel like you've done. But obviously there's a point in trying to build inroads and trying to mend bridges. Because though nobody would want to spend a year in jail, I certainly wouldn't. Years go pretty quickly. And so you'll be out before you know it, and then you've got an entire career to rebuild. You know?
Not with Marvel.
Yeah, that's true because he's gone. Mm-hmm. And they had based so much stuff on the character of Kang. They had an Avengers movie that was going to be called the Kang Dynasty. And now we get to this question of, do you recast it? Do you try to get somebody else?
That's a good thing. Loki has set up that there are variants of him.
Right.
So it is still possible, but has it tainted that part of it? Are they going to pull a DC like Amber Heard and just get rid of that whole storyline altogether? I don't know what the answer is. While that's a good character, I would like to see if someone else could do it justice. And I believe that there are. It would be a different take on it. Like every Doctor Who, every James Bond, it would be a different take. I'd be okay with them doing a variant, but if they want to take the time and do something fresh, that's okay too. I'm okay with it.
Oh yeah, they're figuring out something. But in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in situations where you've had an actor leave, they've done it both ways. In the case of Rhodey/War Machine, they replaced the actor in The Incredible Hulk.
John Hurt. And
exactly. Thunderbolt Ross, when he passed away.
We haven't seen Harrison Ford yet.
No.
But
we've also had situations where characters have left, like Black Panther, and they didn't recast Black Panther. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's going to be the question because, I mean, obviously you bring an actor in, you don't want them to play it the same way Jonathan Majors did. Although the way he did it was, there was some interesting stuff going on there, for sure.
We don't want to Blade the series. I'm sure we've talked about it on Every Year before, how much I adore Blade the series. Everything in that series, the vampires, all the humans were great except Blade. Yeah. He was just doing an impression of Wesley Snipes.
Right.
And if he had done his own, I know I would have loved it. I'm positive. It was such a good series except for the main character. And there are several series that kind of hurt that way, but man.
And we've been talking about how, in a sense, even though the strike is over, we're still are ready to dip over the precipice of all kinds of crazy stuff going on because there's been this dry spell for so long. And now another Marvel movie has had a casualty because of the strike. I don't know if you heard about this, but since you were talking about Thunderbolt Ross, and of course the Thunderbolts, Steven Yeun had been cast.
Really?
Yes, and he was going to be playing a character. It was rumored he was going to be playing Sentry, which he's like a version of Superman for Marvel.
Okay.
And what makes him interesting is, besides the fact that he's a really powerful hero, he basically has this mental issue where he has another personality known as the Void. So anytime he remembers he's the Sentry, this powerful psionic being that's really attached to him, it's like his other personality comes out. And he's even more powerful than Sentry and has the power to destroy universes. And it
Did
was
this character pop up before Phoenix? Or what?
I think a little bit after, actually. And it was an interesting casting to put Steven Yeun in that role. But of course, with the fact that shooting for movies had gotten delayed because of the strike, and they're getting ready to start principal photography for the Thunderbolts. But the problem is, because things got shifted around, now Steven Yeun had an obligation for another movie, so he had to drop out of Marvel. He didn't want to drop out. He was contractually obligated to this other movie, and so he had to step away. He says he wants to do another Marvel movie.
Oh,
He
yeah.
hopes he hasn't burned any bridges. Under the circumstances, I can't see anybody holding any grudges. It wasn't
It
anyone's
wasn't
fault.
anything he could control.
So hopefully we'll see him again, but
Definitely.
that has shifted things a little bit, and I don't know if they're going to recast that character, if they're going to do a rewrite or change something. We're getting to principal photography, so they're going to have to do something in quick, obviously. But superhero movies, this has not been a good time for them at all.
Well,
The Marvels has officially became the lowest earning Marvel movie of all time,
yeah.
which is a shame because I saw the movie. I enjoyed it, and I don't know if
I haven't seen it yet.
you haven't seen it yet. It's now coming out in paid streaming. It's not quite on Disney Plus yet, but I'm hearing that's going to happen soon. It probably will. And then Aquaman 2 didn't do very well. It crapped the bed. No puns intended.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, everyone saw what I did there, and I'm ashamed. I am so ashamed. That didn't do very well, and obviously there's a lot of nervousness at this point because what do we do now? This year we've got a couple of Marvel movies coming out, and some of them are kind of...
We got the Sony. What's the Sony one?
Web.
Madam Web. I wasn't thinking Madam Web. I was thinking of The Hunter.
Craven the Hunter.
Craven the Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's after.
Okay.
I don't know if it's
some idea with those two.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if Craven the Hunter is this year or not. I don't know if it got delayed. Although I know that some movies have been shifted early to try to fill in this big gaping hole.
Right.
But this was the month we were supposed to get Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and we didn't get it. Not because of the strike, but unfortunately, the person who was directing was Patty Jenkins, and she directed a movie that was so panned and cost the studio so much money, not necessarily because that's her fault. It had more to do with the studio, because if you put a movie up on free for streaming, right?
Right, it's not going to make money. Why would
It's
it?
not going to make money, but Wonder Woman 1984 was a disaster. It was no fun to watch. We're not going to rehash that because we've talked about that already.
Right.
You can go back and see what I had to say about that. But it was, did you ever watch it?
Yes, I did.
You did. So I know you have geek colored glasses. We may have talked about it before, but I wonder if maybe there was some stuff that the studio pushed in that she just couldn't. And perhaps, again, we were in the heart of COVID at that point and everybody was really concerned, and maybe she just didn't have the strength, or
if this movie had been done in the manner of a Schumacher Batman film, I think I might have liked it better, because having the two villains, that's a classic Schumacher thing, having two villains with two different origin stories coming together, and if it had not been taken as seriously, I think I would have been happier that way with these villains if they had funny, over-the-top catchphrases and things like that. I think I would have enjoyed Wonder Woman 1984 even more.
I can see that, although I can also see where somebody might at this point be thinking, did Mandy just say that she thought Wonder Woman would have been a better movie if Patty Jenkins was more like Joel Schumacher?
Put it on a T-shirt.
Put it on a T-shirt. There you go. No hate. That is a hot take to have. in this situation, but Rogue Squadron got completely canceled, and that's why we didn't get it. And as far as I know, last time I looked at IMDb, Patty Jenkins, she's not directing anything right now. I'm hoping she'll be back. Would hate to think that over the one movie, suddenly her career is over. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
She obviously has a lot of potential and a lot of talent, but hopefully, again, that's not the end. I don't see anybody losing their job over Aquaman 2. So it
Well,
doesn't.
one person.
Well,
But it wasn't over Aquaman 2. It was just from Aquaman 2.
yeah. Well, and looking at Jason Momoa, he may be back because there's been talk about him playing another character, one that he's actually would be a better fit for than Aquaman.
Okay.
So I would love to see his take on Lobo. So I think that would be amazing. But with everything that's going on in superhero movies and everybody's nervous right now, trying to figure out what the heck is going on, both on the DC side and the Marvel side. And you have people like Bob Iger, the now once again CEO of Disney, saying that the problem with the Marvel movies was there was not enough guidance and direction from the studios, which of course chilled my blood because I thought that is the last thing any movie needs is to be micromanaged by the studios. Please don't start doing that. Allow us to have decent Marvel movies again. Don't kill them. But now that Echo has come out, it makes me wonder how that's going to change things because a lot of people, I haven't seen any yet. I think you told me
I've seen the first episode.
You've seen the first episode. I'm planning on streaming it this weekend.
Okay.
But I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. I've been hearing it's a return to form. I understand that a lot of what they've been doing in these shows have codified what happened in Netflix. It's not a rewrite. Apparently, the Netflix shows are now considered complete canon. And I am interested to see how this ties into What If, because spoiler alert, well, not exactly spoiler alert, but there is a character in What If, and I won't go into a whole lot of details because you haven't seen any of.
I've seen 2 episodes of What If.
You've seen 2 episodes.
Yeah, but I didn't go in order. I watched the Christmas episode and I watched the 1600s episode.
Oh, I got you. The 1602.
Yes.
Okay. There is a brand new character. It was created for What If.
Really?
And the voice actor for that character is an actor in Echo.
Okay.
And from things that I've been hearing, there may be a tie-in between those characters, which I would find really fascinating.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you this. And you said that you jumped around and watched a couple of episodes. Have you looked at titles for the other episodes?
Some of them, yeah.
Because one thing that I made a real point of doing was I would not look at the title.
Oh.
And I would click on it, and then when it came to the opening credits, I'd skip through them so that I had no idea what I was getting into.
Who was voicing?
Would have absolutely no clue. But I think the second season of What If was better than the first season.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of really interesting character development that, again, no spoilers, but there is a certain extra level to, let's say, a villain, where a villain is the lead in one of these episodes. And it's amazing what they did with that character. I never thought this would be a character I could be sympathetic with. But it was also amazing to me that the person who played that character in live action came back to voice it.
Oh, good.
Because this was a one-off villain, a great villain, but a one-off villain.
And played by a big name actor.
Okay.
And so bringing them back in was amazing. And the episode, I thought, again, gave that character a new complexity that they didn't have originally, which was, to me, just fantastic. But again, you have a new superhero that was created for the show, which I hope we get to see more of. And there was one episode that was supposed to be part of season 1, but because of COVID, they had to cut it. And so they did it for this season. And you have your favorites when it comes to episodes, when some episodes you just feel are better than others. Although, to my mind, it's like anybody who says any of those episodes were their favorite, I get it. But across the board, I have really enjoyed what they did with What If. There was a lot of really interesting things that they played with. And eventually, when you get the chance to go through all of them, maybe we can talk a little more detailed and go a little more spoilery because, like I said, I don't want to dip into too much of it because I don't want to take anything away from you.
Okay.
But you have seen the Happy Hogan
Yes.
one. And then, of course, you got to see him again because you.
Yes.
So apparently, I don't know if you did that on
I
purpose.
didn't. No,
It's
I
like,
did not.
oh, he's back. He's
Yes.
back. But I love the Hulk Hogan thing that they brought in, calling him Hulk Hogan, which is funny because when Hulk Hogan was calling himself Hulk Hogan, he did get in trouble with Marvel and has been paying Marvel to use the name Hulk Hogan.
Really?
So it's funny that they called Happy Hulk Hogan. But I really have enjoyed a lot of What If. I cannot wait for Echo. It has that Netflix grit. And again, going back to this idea that Marvel and to a degree also DC is a little bit worried about how they're going to get superheroes popular again. If Echo does well, we may start seeing more grittier movies from Marvel, which, I mean, I don't mind that, but I always felt that the strength of Marvel was that you could do different tones with different heroes and you didn't have
There's a little bit something for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would hate for them to just make all of their movies gritty and dark because I feel like that was the big problem with the Snyderverse. I think it's what killed the Snyderverse because I can see you making Batman a little gritty, although he was way too gritty, I think, in the Snyderverse. But Superman absolutely should not be a gritty, morose character.
He's a Boy Scout.
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't get that. And I would hate to see Marvel go down that road because I think that if they do, the same thing that happened to the DCEU is going to happen again. Hopefully they don't take the wrong lessons away from Echo, but I suppose we'll find out. But before we get to talking about some of the movies that we saw, and we'll go over those briefly, let's talk a little bit of Doctor Who. I'm not going to do the bumper music because we have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to take up too much time because we've got a lot to speak about Doctor Who. But hey, you've seen all the episodes of Doctor Who?
Yes, I hadn't even realized we hadn't talked about it.
We talked about the first one, but we hadn't seen any of the other ones. So generally speaking, including the Christmas episode, what did you think?
Oh, of course I loved it. It's fantastic. Clenched my heart. Absolutely loved it. And the new doctor, he's great. He's got his own personality. The companion and all the little mysteries that they're putting into the episode and these little Easter eggs, a little hint at something coming up.
Like, which I will talk about. I will talk about that briefly. When we talk about the regeneration, there's some controversy there because of the bi-generation, of how the doctor split like an amoeba, and now we got two of them.
Right.
So there are a couple things I wanted to talk about, but I think the first thing, obviously, is do you have a theory about why the 10th Doctor's face came back? Because they didn't really go into why that face came back. I have a theory, but I'm curious if you even...
I didn't have a theory, just that Donna said you got this face back so you could come home. Yeah.
This is my theory of why that face specifically, because this was going to be the doctor that settled down and had a full life and was able to live a normal life. Now, the doctor has settled down before. There was a time when he settled down with River Song before she goes to the library. If you've never seen it, I know you haven't seen a lot of the Peter Capaldi episodes, but the Husbands of River Song is probably my favorite Christmas episode.
Oh.
And when you get a chance to see it, you'll see why.
Yeah.
It was...
I always thought I would cry when I watched it.
Yeah, you will. But I think it's a wonderful coda for that character of River Song. And seeing those characters play off, Peter Capaldi's doctor, playing off a River Song and it being a different dynamic.
Really good chemistry. And,
exactly. And what was funny about it is because of the nature of that regeneration, that allowed for a really great running joke that, again, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was hilarious. Okay. But that being said, I have a theory about why that face was the one that came back. And again, this was the doctor that was going to settle down and have a normal life. And if you remember, that was the face that had the opportunity to do it before and had to give it up. Do you remember the Family of Blood?
Yes.
And the Chameleon arc. And the doctor turned himself into a human, became John Smith.
Yes.
And found out that who he was, but didn't want to change back because he wanted to marry this woman, grow old, and he had that opportunity to do so, but he couldn't. He had to give it up. And even when he became the doctor, he remembered it. And if you remember the last episode of the 10th Doctor's run, he goes
met
back.
the granddaughter. Yeah.
He went to meet the granddaughter. So it was something that he remembered. So this face comes back to be able to get the reward he wasn't able to before. He was able to reclaim what he had lost previously. Now, looking at the bi-generation, that itself has been really controversial because it's like it's canon breaking and Time Lords aren't amoeba and all that. But it didn't bother me at all because I have a take on it that strangely even Russell T Davies didn't have, because he considers this a canon break, but I don't. I don't think that broke canon at all. I think we've seen this in the show before. In Classic Who, when the third Doctor, John Pertwee, his last episodes with Planet of the Spiders, there was a character that had been teased all through Pertwee's run as the Doctor, this guru character who was a Time Lord, who he knew as a little boy, and there's this great speech about the daisiest daisy I had ever seen, and this mentor character that had taught him how to live in a moment. And you got the feeling that a lot of what he learned from this guru was what ultimately made him decide to leave Gallifrey and go out into the universe.
Steal a TARDIS.
And help people. And we get to see this character eventually at the end. He's a Time Lord, but he has the role of an abbot of a Buddhist monastery. His name is Campo Repulche. And the Doctor immediately recognizes him as this man who is this guru. Again, this story that had been woven through a lot of these episodes of his, and you get to meet him. And he has this servant named Chochi, right? And there's a point where Campo, who's an old man, his body wears out and he dies. And then you see Choji, he says, "Don't worry, it's okay." And then he fades away. And Campo regenerates into Choji. Choji was his next incarnation who existed at that time as a servant. And you had two regenerations together. And so in a sense, Campo had bi-regenerated. And when he did finally die, Choji became Campo. To my mind, I think that's what's going to happen at the end eventually when the Doctor passes away. He will fade, and the next thing he's going to remember is looking into his own face and pushing away from him. That's what I feel like is going to happen.
Okay.
So I don't believe we got two Doctors that he's going to regenerate into another one. It's part of the same timeline, and this is something that the Shudigatwa version of the Doctor said. The reason I'm who I am is because you were able to deal with the issues that you've been dealing with all your lives. And he's still part of that line. It's just that Time Lords have the ability sometimes to fold their own timelines on each other. And this happened again. And
the 50th anniversary when Tom Baker came back.
Yeah. He took another face.
Yeah, he said I visit some other faces.
And going back to Tom Baker, another instance where you have the Doctor's timeline folding in on itself in a strange way is Tom Baker's last episode. Okay, it's funny because you have the situation at the beginning of Tom Baker's run because, of course, John Pertwee had passed the torch. But at the end, there's this mysterious character known as the Watcher who appears to Tom Baker.
The mummy-looking thing.
Yeah, the white, exactly.
In Legopolis. Yes.
Exactly. And warns the Doctor that something serious is going to happen and that it's going to cause him to regenerate. And that character turned out to be the next regeneration of the Doctor. It was the Doctor the whole time. And so in a sort of a different way, you have that situation happen again. So that's why, to me, the bi-generation did not at all feel like a canon break because I'd seen it in Classic Who a couple of times at least. So like I said, that didn't really bother me. I will tell you something that has bothered me about these new episodes, and it's something that you brought up. You were talking about these Easter eggs, these little mysteries. Specifically, the name of this is the mystery box. Have you ever heard the term mystery box before in writing or storytelling?
I guess not in writing or storytelling.
The mystery box is a concept that was codified by J.J. Abrams. He did a TED Talk, and he had this box with a cardboard box with a question mark on it that he had bought from Tannen's Magic Shop when he was a kid. Tannen's is a famous magic shop. They're responsible for the Tannen's magic camp that kids go to. I've actually had a friend of mine who attended Tannen's. So it's
Are there gold coins or mushrooms in the box?
Here's what's in the box. It's $50 worth of magic for $15. And so it's a mystery. You don't know what's in it. They say it's $50 worth of magic, and you get it for $15. And basically, in this TED Talk, J.J. Abrams uses that to express the way he did his storytelling. At the time, he was in the middle of doing Lost, and so he talks about how different things were mystery boxes. As a writer and as a storyteller, I got to tell you, I hate mystery boxes. I feel like they have done more damage to modern storytelling than anything else. I think too many people have taken this idea of the mystery box and have run with it, and I think it's ruined storytelling.
Pulp Fiction.
No. Strangely enough, I wouldn't say Pulp Fiction even has mystery boxes. They have mysteries.
There's a box that opens up and a light at the inside.
You know what? I'm going to take that back because that is a mystery box. It's a mystery box that works, but I won't go into this too awfully long because I don't want to drag this out too much. But let me tell you why I have the issue with mystery boxes. Like One Cloverfield Lane, I loved that movie till it got to the end and it ended with a mystery box, and I hated it. And it was enough to ruin the movie for me. But here's the issues that I have personally with mystery boxes. The first thing is a mystery box promises you something. It promises you if you spend $15, you can take this box home and whatever's in it is going to be worth $50. And that's a lie. Even though I don't know what's in this box, I know it's not worth $50. How do I know this? Because if it's worth $50, why not take it out of the box, put it on the shelf, and get $50 out of it? See, the thing about it is the reason why it's in the mystery box is they put it on the shelf, and people were like, no thanks. So now they put it in the box. Now, they make it less, but what makes it worth $50? The price tags on it, and who puts the price tags on them? But that was the issue.
So this was just a clearance sale with a gimmick.
Yeah, it was a gimmick. And that's the thing. Is it worth $50? Maybe is it worth $25? If they put it on the shelf and said 50% off, but they didn't do that. If they just wanted to get $15 out of it, put it on the shelf with a 70% off. No, that wouldn't have sold it either. The only thing that sells it is it's a mystery. And the mystery means that it could be anything. And so it doesn't matter what's in the box because you're not selling the box. You're selling the mystery of the box. And that's the thing, is that you're promising something, but that's not what you're selling. It's like that old salesman saying, people don't buy 3/4 drill bits because they want quarter drill bits. They buy them because they want 3/4 holes. And so the mystery itself is what's important. What's in the box doesn't matter. It can be anything. And because of that's why it's made writers lazy. And I think the person who has fallen for this the worst was Stephen Moffat, because very often he create these mystery boxes. He did it in Doctor Who. He did it in Dracula, which you love so well, is that he creates a mystery box. And because the mystery is what you're selling, you don't have to worry about what's in it. Eventually you do. But he would just throw out a mystery box, like, what's the doctor's name? But then you're writing a story, and then eventually you have to come up with what's in the box. And you don't really have anything in the story to lead to that. Because here's the thing. The fact you're selling the mystery means that anything that you do that reduces the mystery reduces the value of the box. And that's a problem in storytelling, because a real mystery does limit the choices, because that's the point of it. You're watching a murder mystery. Not anybody could have done it. You have the list of suspects. It's one of them, right? And if the mystery ends with it's somebody's long-lost cousin that you've never been introduced to before, well, it ruins it, right? And there are clues along the way that are meant to limit possibilities so that you can narrow in to who the actual killer is, right? You don't have clues in a mystery box because you wouldn't dare risk it, because any clue you give lessens the value of the box because it lessens the mystery. And that, in a real sense, is what I think really hurts that kind of storytelling, because if you're in the audience and you're looking at a mystery box and you mistake it for a mystery, then you're trying to figure out what's in the box, and there are no clues to tell you. You can speculate. You can guess all that you want. Who's Mrs. Flood? How does she know what a TARDIS is? And people are going in going, the Flood was this bacteria that lived in the waters of Mars. Remember that episode when the Doctor became the Time Lord Victorious? Is that tied into it? And it's like, no, it's not. There aren't clues to tell you who Mrs. Flood is. That's not the point. The point is the mystery. She's a mystery box. That was the problem with The Timeless Child. There's this mystery box. We get a little bit of a hint, it seems, because, and this is something we had talked about before, is like, how do you deal with this Timeless Child storyline? And we all thought maybe they're just going to ignore it. I feel bad that I thought that way, because any writer is going to try to take that challenge on to see if they can fix it. And there was a hint that maybe the toy maker had something to do with it. I turned your past into a jigsaw puzzle. Did you like it? But the biggest problem I see with mystery boxes, and why I feel like they fall apart at the end. If you see the J.J. Abrams TED Talk, okay, and he talks about the mystery box. He bought it when he was a kid, and he'd never opened it. To this very day, he has this mystery box. He doesn't know what's in it. He never opened it because he understood that the value was the fact that it's a mystery. It's like the minute you open it, it becomes something. If you keep it closed, it could be anything. And that's the problem with the mystery box, because eventually you have to open it. And regardless of what you think might be in it, regardless of what may actually be in the box, whatever they finally decide, and when their back's to the wall and they have to come up with something, no matter how interesting they can make it, what's the possibility that people in the audience thought of something better? Even if you're not very creative, you can come up with one thing that was better than that. And if you're creative, you can come up with dozens. So it doesn't matter what's in. The minute you have to open the box, the value's gone. And that's why I've always felt that the whole mystery box idea was, for me, it doesn't work, because you can just throw the mystery box out. You don't even need to know what's in it, but it gives you some level of profluence, but it winds up a cheat at the end. It's almost impossible to come up with something in the mystery box that people are going to be interested in, even if you even decide to do it. Like, that was one of the biggest issues with Lost, is they had all these mystery boxes and they didn't open most. There was a lot of them they didn't even open. I mean, we don't know who the cloud monster is. We don't know how the polar bear showed up there. They just don't even bother. And again, there's a bunch of mystery boxes going on with Doctor Who now. It's like, who is the one who waits? Who is this character that was so scary the toy maker said, I'm done. No, I don't want to have anything to do with that. What's the issue with the Timeless Child? Because, again, they're
Who picked up the tooth?
Who picked up the tooth? Who is Ruby's mom? You've got that as a mystery box.
Right.
And, again, my hope is that Russell T. Davies does not depend too much on the mystery box formula, because ultimately it will crash and burn. But I guess we'll find out about that. But before we go, let's talk about some of the movies that we saw. Because we did not exactly geek adjacent, unless you're a real big wrestling fan,
right.
But we did watch The Iron Claw. And I knew the backstory and you didn't.
I didn't. Nope. I sure didn't.
Yeah, that was the thing. I knew going into it, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be fun at all.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I have 3 sisters. I have one sister who is a major wrestling geek.
Yeah.
And I had said that I had seen The Iron Claw, and our other sister said, Cecilia told me not to watch it because I would cry. I was like, I wish I had known. I wish she had told me. Yeah.
I knew that was coming. I don't know if I even told you this, but what's really depressing about this movie is they talk about 5 brothers. There's 6.
Yes, you told me that.
I
It was
did.
like the saddest movie ever, and the reality was even sadder. They took out one of the suicides to make it more realistic. Because the real story was so much more sad.
Yeah, so the 2 youngest brothers, they combined into one character. But
It
so there was even a younger brother who also committed suicide.
It was sad, but it was a fantastic movie, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
except for one thing.
Right, the same complaint that everyone has.
Ric Flair, and nothing against the actor, because those were some big wrestling boots to fill. But yeah, he didn't have the energy. He tried to come out with the energy of Ric Flair. And I think the problem is the problem that any actor would have in that kind of a role, which is you don't want to go over the top, which is exactly the opposite of what Ric Flair ever did. He constantly went over the top. The thing about it is, it's the direction that actor should have gotten for Ric Flair is you make it bigger, make it
take
louder.
Take it to the limit. Go higher, go more, go.
Yeah. If you think you're taking it too far, you're almost there. Mm-hmm. You're almost there.
He was like Ric Flair diet or something.
Yeah, Sleepy Ric Flair.
Sleepy Ric Flair.
I don't even recall him going, woo!
Not once. No, did not. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I remember Ric Flair later on in his life cutting a promo so energetic and so crazed, he bit his own tongue and was bleeding from the mouth. He bit his tongue.
But everything else about this movie, the
Yeah.
acting, of course, is just fantastic. This is definitely Oscar bait for the biopics. Got to be a couple of nominations in there. The costuming, it captured the time period so well.
Very much so.
The hair.
Yeah.
Oh, the hair. They need to win for that. Everything from the wig work to the wedding hair and everything. And it didn't look down on wrestling.
No.
It acknowledged that while, yes, it's choreographed, this is still athletic storytelling.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It does take a toll on people.
oh my goodness.
And yeah, that was an amazing movie. I knew it was going to be sad. I feel guilty. I didn't want to spoil you, but I felt do I tell her this is going to be sad? Because she'll probably not go because it's really sad.
I really thought it was going to be like one or two of them die
No,
or something.
no.
Nope. No,
that's
six brothers. Am I right? 6 brothers died?
Well, 6 in real life, 5 in the
5
movie.
in the movie. Man. Ugh.
Yeah, the oldest lives, and he's still alive and living in Hawaii with his 2 sons. But yeah, there's a great Vice documentary on the Von Erichs, and they interview him. And there were some moments where he had to say, "Can I take a moment?" Because again, it's a very tragic, sad story. The parents wind up divorcing, and the father, he started to go senile.
Dementia. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a point where he held a gun to his oldest son's face and said to him, "All your brothers are dead. You should be dead too."
Oh, God.
So again, yes, the real story,
Much more sad.
much more sad. Yes, but yes, an amazingly acted movie, an amazing movie. The camera work was amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost handheld.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but
Well,
a
it
little
does.
bit of lens flare.
Yeah, it definitely has that 70s touch to it, which really fit in. And we saw Boy and Heron, the studio Ghibli.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Brian had completely forgot that we had seen that movie. Oh, wow.
And of course, it comes rushing in now.
Woo, was that an experience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you've...
The course
Yeah.
of the Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And I try to think back to the first time I saw Spirited Away. The first time I saw My Neighbor Totoro and thought how weird this was. But then to watch this and think, this is so weird.
It's like he's going in even deeper.
He went all the way. But yeah, it was beautiful. Even like the way it was animated, the rickiness of the rickshaw.
Yeah.
Like when it was bending when they were getting in it. It's things like that you don't really see in animated movies. Yeah, the soundtrack, the rustling of the grass, the walking up the stairs, those odd things that I notice in stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And although we saw the dubbed version, the voice talent they brought in,
spot on, picked those for those characters.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I will say this before we go, because we had already talked about Godzilla -1, but have you seen the trailers for the new Godzilla Kong Hidden Kingdom movie?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to say this about the trailer. There is a crossover that I did not expect.
Camera.
No, unfortunately.
Dang it.
No camera. But I didn't expect the Barbenheimer crossover. But I should have because it's so powerful.
What?
Because Godzilla, when he fires his breath, turns bright pink. His spines go hot pink when he fires his atomic breath.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's Barbenheimer.
It is. It's absolutely Barbenheimer.
So you have to go watch that.
Yes, the radioactive Barbie pink. Wonderful.
Yep. So it's already canon. Barbenheimer is actual thing, and we've seen it, of course, in the new Godzilla movie. But of course, we've got this year ahead of us, and we've got some TV to look forward to. We got some movies, and we got drama. But how much worse can it get? I guess we will see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 207. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media.
For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.